right here. Alright, this is a trim pumping motor for an old boat, basically. What I've done so far is I rebuilt the motor on it somewhat. So basically cleaned it out. It's full of corrosion. At some point this thing was underwater. Did some damage to it. And I guess the backstory is this boat is an old boat. It's like a 90 model. And it was given to me by my father just to play with, because I just like old junk to work on. Like bringing old stuff back to life, and I like it when it's ugly and rusty, and it works perfectly. I don't know why. That's just how it goes. But you missed all the good stuff, but what I will show you is just how to take off a few things, how to do a few things. What I'm doing here is I'm just taking it back, some of it back apart, because I'm done testing it. Now that I got the motor working. I know that it has a bad solenoid on it. This thing has two solenoids on it. Right here, you can see there's a top solenoid and a bottom solenoid. And this is basically no different from the one on an old Chevrolet or Ford or anything like that, just for your starter motor. And it's no different from one that's on your lawnmower, basically. It's basically just carries high current across a switch. Okay, so it's just a heavy duty switch, basically. And it's triggered by, each one has a trigger wire on it, which normally comes from your ignition, but being this is not an ignition, this is a pump, this comes from your trim switch. And one solenoid is for up, and one solenoid is for down. And your trim, what you're trimming is your boat motor. So it makes it goes up and down, up and down. This is a hydraulic pump on the bottom, and it's driven by this motor on top. And like I said, I got this boat, it's old, probably set out in the rain or something, but I came to find out that this motor didn't work at all. My motor wouldn't, and I couldn't. This is where I started. I'm going to make sure I can trim my motor up and down before I even start on the motor, and that will be in later videos. But what we're going to do right now is we'll take this back apart and take that out. I'm taking out the pins that hold the caps on the front and the rear of this motor. And my desk is insanely messy right now, but for some reason I'm comfortable there. So we got one pin out. Let's take another pin out. Let's see, this is not the one we want to take off. Two of these pins that go down through the housing to hold it to the pump. The other two just hold the two end caps from the motor together, so we don't have to take those off. We're just going to take off these two that hold this thing to the pump. The reason we're taking the pump back off is because I wanted to test it without the shaft doing any work on the pump. I just wanted it free, just like it is. And don't forget, this is a main ground screw right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's like right here below this top solenoid. That's your main ground, but straight to your boat battery right here. And it also helps hold it on, so we got to take it off too as well. This. When I rebuilt this, I wasn't sure it was going to work. This motor's, like I said, it's old. You know, it's 25 years old. So, or who knows how old it is, because we really don't know how old the boat is, or how old this trim pump is. But from the looks of the inside of it, I can tell you it's probably isn't that old. This motor has lived its life, and we're actually going to get some more life out of it. So now that I got that off, I've got this thing's got a double, you see there's your end cap, and now we're tearing stuff up, and there's your end cap right here. and we're just going to take the pins out. We're not going to take the end cap off completely. But it's got another nut underneath this nut because that's where it grounded together. That's where your main ground is. So you can take that off as well. I don't recommend this, but somebody before me who rebuilt this didn't take good care of this nut. It's kind of stripped out, but it seems to be working. Well, I know it's an American size, but 8mm does the job for a light screw. It comes out easily. You don't have to worry about damaging it anymore. So we'll pull this. Got this pin out. We got both our pins out, and now the head should come right off. And what we're looking at down in here is, I'll show you, is where the pump is. And this little deal, this right here, this thing right here, it's just a connector between the blade that's down in here, which is connected to the pump, and the motor. And all we got to do is just set that down. Wait a minute, one's longer than the other, so we got to get that right. So usually you can tell just if you take a look at both. This one's got the motor's got a longer blade on it than this one does, so we take the short end, we put it down in there. No problem. Just turn it around a little bit till it falls in there. Now when I opened this thing up the first time, it was full of milk. And by milk, I mean water got into the hydraulic fluid somehow, some way. And pretty sure from what it looks like, it got in around this little seal right here, which goes right on top. I see where somebody has put some, I think they call it RTV black silicone on everything because it was probably leaking at some point. And my advice is, if the daggum seal doesn't seal, then just go buy you another one. I mean, it's not worth the hassle. But as this is not something you can just run out and buy in a hardware store, or it would be difficult to find the perfect seal for. We're gonna use this old seal, which actually looks really good. It's not flat, so you want to make sure your seal is not flat around the edges. It's really hard to see on this camera, but you see it's got a nice round shape to it. So we're gonna put that back on. I can see it's kind of standing up a little bit. That's good because that means when I put it on, it'll flatten it out and it'll make a seal. But I got all that water stuff out. Now what we're going to do is just clean out some of this. There's like dirt dauber nests and everything. And there's these little ports on the side. They're basically just there for if it was going to leak. It's like a little dirt dauber nest. If it was going to leak, it'll come out these little relief holes. And they're just full of just swamp matter. God knows what else. All kinds of insect legs. Just pure grossness. Probably 20 years of grossness. I'm going to get my trash can over here and do this. Let's just get all that stuff out of there. And this motor, when I took it apart, I wish I could show you, but I got in too big a hurry to film it. But this motor had a bad spot on the inside, you know, the part that spins, and it probably made the motor weak. Now, this, like I said, we're just playing with this one. In the future, I can always go back and replace it if everything works out. But what we're trying to do is get this old boat on the water running and going. And if this thing will pick the motor up and put it down, even if it struggles a little bit, that is fine with me until we got to make this boat worth the trouble. And so far, getting this little trim motor working, half working, is half the battle because a lot of times I don't have any air duster, but a lot of times you run into something that's just so expensive to replace. And when I got this boat, it was under the pretense that the motor went up and down. The motor ran, but had some kind of problem with putting it in gear or something to that effect. So that's all mechanical stuff. We can fix that. There's always a little piece of part you can change out and get her back on the road. Some things wear more than others over time. Some things don't wear at all if you take good care of it. So what we're looking at right now is a half clean motor. Now I was going to clean it up a little bit better than that, but I don't have any air duster. I recommend, you take a little air duster and blow it out, and all that. But the inside's clean. The part that matters is clean. These little jets on the side and whatnot are not of any real super importance. They're just for draining hydraulic fluid in case it overflows. But I guess it'll find its way out. I guarantee you that. Okay, just get a good gasket seal part around here. Put that gasket back on there. Now, I was just looking at this. The guy who had this before, I'm not going to diss him, but it looks like he did a real number on this little filler screw right here. And while I got the top off, I'm going to see if I can't open it without destroying it the rest of the way, because it is in bad shape. And I'm just tightening down on it a little bit with some vice grips, and it's wiggling, but it's not moving. And that looks like it's this little screw right here. It's black, it's actually plastic. And who put plastic on this motor? One will never know. But plastic sucks. Anything plastic, it sucks. So this is what we're dealing with. It's also got another plastic valve here. Now, I haven't taught myself anything about hydraulics yet. I understand the basics because I went to school and learned about my electronics technician. But you learn hydraulic power. You can take a class on it. I did. And so I fundamentally know how it works. And I've been doing this long enough that nothing really scares me anymore. I've pretty much seen it all. So anyway, I'm going to teach myself the fundamentals, the hydraulics for this. I'm going to get the book out and learn how to bleed it and fill it and all that. But I understand the basic fundamentally how it works. So I'm not concerned with that at all. But right now, I guess we'll just leave it alone because we're not to that part yet. And we will go ahead and put the pump head on. Now, I noticed that in an attempt to keep it from leaking, he put just black RTV crap all over it. And that's fine if you like making a friggin' mess. But I'm just going to get some of that off. And I'm sure some people are saying, you can clean that up better than that. You take a little time with it. But you know what? This boat it's old. I don't see this motor last very long. And if this motor works really well, and the engine for the boat, I'll go back and I'll fix a few things. It'll all be fine. It's not like it's a big deal. So what we're going to do now is put this rigmarole back on. So we got that. Now we got to get the shaft lined up so that it fits into that groove again. And I know a lot of this you can't see, but the likelihood of you working on the same deal, I'm just giving you the basics, is pretty slim. Gotta get it turned right back where the ground screw is. Make sure we got the shaft lined up. Uh-oh, there it came out. Uh-oh. Alright, hang on, we gotta get that out. It just stuck to it, flipped over, and went in the wrong way. That's the way it always happens, isn't it? Now this little piece that goes in here, it doesn't seem to be made out of metal or plastic. I don't know what it is. It's kind of ceramic or something. I'm not sure what it is. It could be anything. Not concerned. Don't care. Getting that little groove lined up is gonna be a pain, it looks like. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put the big end on first. No, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Because we'll never get it on the bottom. Alright, there we go. There we go. Alright, now we got it laying in the saddle. I'm going to put the hang the pieces of parts back on this stud right here while we're working. Take my stud, get it over here. I'm just going to put it back in. Easy as you please. Let's see here. Let's crank that bad boy down. This would be a lot easier with a ratchet because sometimes, but it's sad when you're too lazy to go out and walk 30 feet outside your house and get your ratchet and hook it all up. I like working with these hand tools. That's just me, right? Okay, now this was on top first, so we gotta put this in. Like I said, 8mm did good on this. We're gonna try it again, and we're just gonna go around the world with it. Now I can see this thing's got some serious wire issue. Rats have been chewing on it and all this. This is easily fixed. Not a problem. Tighten that down. Alrighty. Tighten this one down. Well, it's not going to let us, so I'm going to go to the box in. Here we go. Alright, everything's tightened down. I'm guessing that seal will hold. I don't really care right now. But if it leaks a little bit, I'm fine with that. Like I said, it's something I can come back, work on later for fun, replace the whole motor and everything if I need to. I do know that one of the cylinders, bottom solenoid, is bad because when I touch 12 volts to the post that kicks off the switch, it sparks and it doesn't do anything. So, like I said, this thing was probably underwater for a while, snuck into it and destroyed it. This is the original solenoid on top, and it actually still works because they used to make stuff really well back then. This one on the bottom, my guess is they probably didn't seal it. They didn't, it's an open solenoid. It says, oh, don't expose to the elements or something like that, and water got in it and destroyed it. That'd be my guess. But what we do know is it doesn't work. And we can cross these posts. You can take a screwdriver or something. This is an old trick people use. People who know do. It's just a little test. You can cross the post with a screwdriver or something, and just to get a little reaction from the motor or whatever you're working on, and that'll kind of give you a idea of if what you're working on, where your problem is. You can bypass that motor work. If it spins a little bit, then you can go and fix something else in the circuit. So where we are right now is we've just got one solenoid. It's like the down solenoid that puts the motor down, doesn't work. The one that goes up does. These things don't cost that much. We'll get one later, and we'll have that fixed right up. Alright. Now, before I tighten everything down, let me just make sure I have done everything I wanted to do. And it looks like I have. I can see all kind of wires that have frayed out, trying to come out of their harnesses, and rats have been working on it. Like I said, we just want functionality for right now. Sometimes that means fixing all that, but I don't see anything corroded, which is what would stop you from doing that. It looks like they used good wire and all that, so don't leave that alone for right now. Just tighten that up. Okay. I'll give you a little demonstration of it working. Give me just a second. Just so you don't think I'm crazy. It's on the ground. We're going to this ground lead back up where we found it. It's got a nice bare spot. It's good ground. Now it's important to have good connections, especially on these big wires like this, on these main wires that drive the motor and do all this stuff, because current, the size of the wire you need is based on the amount of current that your load, your motor, or whatever you're working, is going to require. So you can see this thing's got some big Hoss wires on it. It tells me that this thing needs some serious, it's got these giant solenoids on it, so it needs some serious current to roll through it. So if you got a bad ground connection on your wire, it may be touching in just a little spot, because it's so corroded up or something. And then all that current is trying to rush across that little spot, and it makes your wire heat up because all that current can't flow through that little spot. And it's like kind of like trying to force, I don't know, you can somewhat relate it to water through a hose. If you hold it back or you restrict it, you get, pressure builds up. And it's somewhat a way to explain it. It's almost like a pressure buildup that causes heat instead of something else. So we got the power hooked up, we got the ground hooked up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab 12 volts right here, just right there where the main power comes from the battery. And I'm just going to jump. This would be like, normally this would go through some wires, it go all the way back to your trim switch, and when you hit the switch, it will complete the circuit. This is the trim switch for me. We're bypassing all that, we're going straight to the post. And you see, I just touch it, and it kicks the solenoid off right here, allows the large current to flow through it and go to the motor. And then, the motor runs. So, you see, actually squirted out some milk. Shouldn't be milky because it's hydraulic fluid, but we know this thing has been through the ringer with some water, but we also know that the pump is pumping because it's squirting stuff out. So we need cleanup, aisle 1. There we go. Let's clean up there. So, and my bench is a mess.